Thanks for joining in for devotion number 2. Our goal here is personal renewal and personal revival in our relationship with God and peace with one another. If you missed yesterday's devotion, go back and listen to it because it's about how we have passions at work within us, war that it literally says war within us that create disharmony with others. And if we want to be people of peace, we have to have peace from God. So we talked about symptoms last week. Today we're going to talk about the diagnosis of our biggest problem. And it's a tough diagnosis, so hang on, okay? But before we do, let's look at this picture. You see a man embracing a woman, and what's she doing? She's distracted, which characterizes most of us in our lives. We're not good multitaskers. And one thing we're not good at multitasking is simultaneously loving God and embracing the world's values at the same time. So much so that James in James chapter 4 uses some strong language. Hold on, buckle in, get ready. He uses this kind of language right here. He says, we are adulterous people. Now he pulls in some of this Old Testament language in the Bible and shows that we are God's covenant people. We are devoted to him. We are to be loyal to him as a man and a woman in marriage are to be devoted to each other. And he calls us, you are adulterous people. We have cheated on God. We have gotten in bed with the world, he says. And to do that is to create a hostile environment with God. That's what enmity is. It's hostility toward God. And because of that, we have made ourselves an enemy of God when we befriend the world's values. Now, when it says world, it doesn't mean like grass and trees and things like that. Let's find out what it actually means when it says world. And to do that, we're going to compare it with another scripture in 1 John. All that is in the world, you see this? All that is in the world. He says, the desires of your flesh. That's what your body tells you it wants all the time. Now, not like in a food way, not that kind of way, but the sinful desires that we know are contrary to our good God. So desires of the eyes, just wanting everything you see. And then human pride, and often it's mostly in possessions, the things that we do for self-elevation, the things that we have that you don't have, and we're better than you. So all these values that the world promotes and the world pushes, if we get in the bed with the world, James says we're an enemy of God. And then 1 John tells us that the world's passing away along with its desires. But when we do God's will, and what is his will but to trust in Jesus, but to devote our lives to him and let him transform us, it says we abide forever. So if we go back to the diagnosis of our biggest problem, it's this. The diagnosis of our biggest problem is that God, somehow in our eyes, is not enough. That he's not enough. That his love is not enough. His grace is not enough. His promises of provision are not enough. So we try to bring something extra into our relationship with God that in turn creates us an enemy of God. It creates hostility in our relationship with God. The diagnosis of our biggest problem is this, that God is not enough. Would you take some time today and ask him how he can be enough in your life? How God can satisfy your every longing and your every desire, and how he can cultivate obedience in you and transform your heart to be more devoted to him. Would you ask him how it is that you are cheating on him today? Remember, our goal is personal revival and personal renewal, and in order to get to that place, we have to tear down those things that we've built up in our life that are contrary to God. I hope that we can take James 4 in bite-sized chunks, because it's going to take a lot for this to massage its way into our hearts, into our minds, and into our lives. Thanks for joining. I'll see you tomorrow for the cure above all cures.